So Trench Tales is one of those indies that when you see it, you immediately wishlist it. It's one of those games. When I first saw it, I was really impressed. I'm like, ooh, a new third-person shooter set in a World War I setting. Something that we don't really see too much covered in modern gaming, outside of some really good indies. This is hoping to combine other elements as well, like supernatural, different skills, and even gun customization. I got the opportunity to enter into the playtest for the game, and I jumped at it. From what I understand, the game is in its alpha phase, and this playtest isn't really like a level, like a campaign mission, but rather more like a little taste slice. You can start to play around with how the game feels, and then you get to do some shooting. While this game is still in its early state, there are two things that really impress right out of the gate. This game excels at delivering a war-torn atmosphere, from the sounds to the visuals. You really feel like you're there. It reminded me how old school Medal of Honor would do it back in the day, and here we have modern tech being able to deliver it, and even being more impressive that this is on the indie side of things. The other impressive aspect was the destruction. Windows, doors, wood, most stuff can be blown up. The destruction is pretty cool. So the basics that I've been able to pull together from the gameplay is that the combat is going to be focused on third-person shooting. An interesting thing that I think when it comes to the movement is how there's no cover button. You can use cover, but this is not a cover shooter. You can crouch and roll to dodge attacks. The rolling is even tied to your stamina, so you cannot mindlessly spam this to get the safety. I kind of look at this on the surface level, because you'll need to factor in even dodging as a means to survive, and then have some stamina in reserve so that you can pull off those rolls if needed. Another cool thing is that after killing an enemy, you sort of earn a bit of energy. This seems to be tied to skill usage, meaning killing enemies allows the player to pull off and even use some useful items. For example, this was tied to healing, and the use of your slow-mo skill. I really like the Max Payne mode because everything goes black and white and creates a cool effect. This is an aspect of the game I can't wait to play around with a more fully featured demo and the final game. Because the idea of needing to earn energy to use your skills, especially as kills provide you with the most energy, and you do get to regenerate some on the side. So it is a system where it mostly pushes the player into combat overall, instead of trying to pull them out of it, because you are actively rewarded for killing enemies by getting more energy, and then you can use more skills and items. I got to play around with some of the guns in this playtest, and each one feels good to use. The effects and impact are solid. I really like how enemies seem to mostly react to where you shoot them, and there's some cool pushback in some cases. The shooting is solid, and then when you combine the energy skill system, destruction, and atmosphere, you have the makings for something special. I do want to say too that overall my impressions of this game through this playtest are positive. The game does have a layer of jank, and I would assume that a lot of this comes from being in its alpha stage. For example, I had plenty of situations where the enemy AI would just not engage me at all, or we would have a stare down. I had another instance where it was clear that I could shoot an enemy, but the game was not registering it at all. So I think this will be an aspect to keep an eye out on, and see how it improves through its development. There is controller support, but I think generally it needs more options and to be able to tweak a lot of stuff. It's just too slow using the controller, even though that's my preferred way to play games. I had to opt to use the mouse and keyboard for the playtest. There are some little things that I ran into that I think would help the experience. One being that small objects would essentially act as walls and not allow you to pass. Like a few broken bottles made it so that I could not vault over. I was able to get through after I blew up some of the bottles, which is cool, but I feel like for smaller items you should just be able to vault right over them, with the bottles dropping to the floor, not acting like these are cemented bottles. I do think stuff like this will get more ironed out as the game is worked on, and improved, and especially the controller support. Even though it isn't where I personally want it now, this will probably get better later on. Now as it comes to the full game, it does leave me with some questions. It appears to be more of a linear game. Will this game have any open aspects? I'm kinda curious which direction this game is going to go in. And if the game ends up being more linear than open, that could be good as well. But I wonder if it's linear but the combat situations can play out differently depending on how the player approaches them, along with the destruction too. I know that there is a weapon modding system, but how will that work? Will there be an in-game shop, or is this stuff that you're going to find through exploring? Will the game only have a campaign, or will it have an instant action horde-like mode, along with other stuff? The other thing is that this game is going to have supernatural elements, so does it mean that Trench Tales will dip its toe into a bit of survival horror? Because by the way it plays right now, if survival horror was incorporated, this is definitely going to be more of an action horror title. There are just a few things that are more left open until we can get more aspects to the game, and for me, much of this stuff just comes from me being super interested in this title. Again, like I said at the start, this is the type of indie that once you see, you wishlist it right away. So Trench Tales, just from the surface, is a really promising title. I look at this game, what it has presented so far, and being able to actually get my hands on it. It's one of those situations where you start to see what the developer is going for. And then, since the game is in its early stages, the final thing isn't ready yet. But where a good trailer could pull you in, and then once you get your hands on it, you are sort of left with what could have been a layer of disappointment. For Trench Tales, I have the exact opposite feeling. Here I'm like, I can see where the developer is going, and have concrete aspects that give me confidence that they will hopefully be able to deliver on it. Of course, I'm pulling for the developer to be able to knock this one out of the park. I am biased, I want this to be good. I see World War I and I'm able to play this game, and I get completely absorbed by its atmosphere and presentation. I'm transported there, and while this world is deadly, as a game this is exactly the type of thing that I want to have and play. And to point out again, I haven't even played a campaign mission. This felt more like a test level than anything else, but you get tastes and flavors of different aspects to the game. Look, in the long run, when we have the game out, maybe this title doesn't deliver, maybe I end up being wrong. But based on what I see here, what I have experienced, I am on board, and I think we might be in for a treat. Personally, I think we need more types of these games. This feels like something that we would have seen in the 360 generation or like early PS4. There's still more questions that I have here on how the entire game will play out, but as of right now, I'm really interested. Have you heard of or had the chance to play Trench Tales? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.